Bienvenidos a todos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos a otro video de KOTOR. De KOTOR. Acá ya habíamos matado a todos, ¿no? Vamos. Epa, ¿este me va a pelear? ¿Te la bancás, peludo? Parece que me equivoqué contigo. A vuelta y he contado lo que has hecho por él. Mis compañeros cazadores discrepan sobre qué hay que hacer de Chuda. Tuvimos que pelear. Fred fue a la sala del Eterno a retar a Chuda. Vamos. Bien, así me ahorro todo el trayecto. Salto paja. A ver, a ver. Es una reunión.
What? Sure.
Kukuno no ba mulera jikun. Tonghit kun chonching. Ne boboje mata de punage. Dolpi kikiuana. Takom justach miki grabal mogo. Kachi ita hodunga. mucho shakpakat. Quién no nama paule rachikun. Kachikun ida hodonga. Yekin kuno pamule rachikun. Slimo podonar de hodunga ku hunkabe.
Mucho shakapaga. Tongki ba Selimo wanga kunbikin. Tong Selimo
Another vision. The Force is guiding us, helping us retrace the steps of Malak and his old master, leading us ever closer to the Star Forge. It is strange that anyone would have built a star map here. The entire surface of Manan is covered by nothing but vast oceans. The ocean floor is vast, and much of it is uncharted, even by the native Selkath. But how could Revan and Malak have found their way down? No doubt things will become more clear once we discover the star map's location.
Yes, what's on your mind? I'm not very good at this. I know I owe you an apology. I was just so desperate to finally face Saul directly in the battle over Terrace. And now the Jedi have us looking for these... I know this mission is important, it's just... I feel a bit useless. I mean, I can fight, sure, but I'm no Jedi. All this feels It doesn't, I know. It's been a while since I've even had to think of... I just hate not knowing what's going on and feeling this... helpless. But I shouldn't have taken that out on you. I've been a royal pain in the backside, haven't I? No, I do worry about it. I've traveled the lanes more than once. I should know better than this. So, I'm sorry. Done. Let's get underway then, shall we?
can I help? Yes, I suppose I can understand your curiosity, given the bond that connects us. Very well. I'll tell you a bit about myself. I was found to be strong with the Force at a young age, as most Padawans are. As a girl, I was given to the Order to be trained. When I joined the Order, I left my family on Talravan, as all Padawans do. My family is still there, the last that I heard. I've had little contact with them, as it is discouraged. Relationships with family members are fraught with powerful emotions. Such extremes are to be avoided. Anger and hate are the worst, but even love can lead to folly. Emotional entanglements can be dangerous. They can impair rational thought. They can lead to outbursts of uncontrolled emotion. A Jedi must be above such things. It can be a hard lesson to learn. I was not on good terms with all of my family, but I do remember missing my father terribly for a long time. Very close. I was only a little girl when I left my family, but I still remember him fondly. He was kind and gentle and doted on me. My mother, however, was different. I was not on good terms with my mother. I was only a little girl when I left, but I was old enough to resent her and the way she treated my father. She pushed my father into treasure hunting. I spent all my young life on ships, traveling from one false lead to the next. She whittled away my father's entire fortune, and I hated her for it. I think she was relieved to give me to the Jedi, but my father was heartbroken. A child is too young to understand the sacrifices that must be made. It's better if they have no contact with their family once they're removed. Once I was older, I realized the wisdom of this policy. A Jedi must do what is needed, personal desires notwithstanding. Love can only obscure and confuse the matter. Even a Jedi cannot always control the feelings of the heart. We must do our best to guard against it, no matter what the cost. But some sacrifices are harder than others. I do not wish to discuss this anymore. I would rather return to our mission.
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? I have been thinking much about our journey, and I am grateful and honored that you have accepted me with you. I am not used to such unbiased acceptance from one who is nearly a stranger to me. We Cathar do not make friends easily, or for long. Even on Dantooine, I remained alone. Not ostracized exactly, but separate. Yes, it was. I find it difficult to speak of those things. I do not want to live that way ever again. And here, it seems different. It is warming. I feel almost welcome. Needed. You seem to be very decisive when it is required of you. It is reassuring to know that I can count on someone like you. To be accepted so readily, I find it difficult to explain. It is so different from what I'm used to. Just thank you for accepting me. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? Well, I suppose I have not talked very much about the Jedi I met back home. They, all of them, were so very invigorating. They were so very alive, so full of hope and energy and zeal. In retrospect, I can see it was a little bit tragic. Well, yes. These Jedi were going to fight the Mandalorians just after they had invaded. Many of those Jedi perished in the fighting, but to us, they seemed invincible. Especially their leader, who they talked about all the time. Paragons of light and justice, sweeping away all iniquity before them. It was like looking at gods. I know that. I was using poetic license. But those Jedi, they were enthralling. Everyone wanted just to touch them. Some people thought it would bring them luck. Not that the peace they brought lasted very long. The Jedi left. The people grew complacent. Those who had been wronged saw their chance at revenge. And so the cycle continues. The oppressed become the new generation of oppressors. The human oppressed, that is. The non-humans were never treated well in any case. We felt the brunt of both administrations. Of course it was. They took their frustrations and hate out on us because the people they wanted had already fled or were too well protected. But no one looks out for the injustices we suffered. Oh no, but I am sorry. I should not have outbursts like that. Don't you see? The very fact I mentioned it means it has its influence. Anger can lead to the dark side, and I must be ever careful that I do not fall back into those ways. I thank you for your support. My outburst was uncalled for, but you did not lash back at me. You are a much better Jedi than I, it would seem. But let us not speak more of this now. We should continue on our journey. Perhaps later we will talk again. Yes. What is it? I have been bothered by something of late. I never told you where I came from, did I? Where I grew up as a child? I have been wrestling with my feelings inside, trying to come to terms with it, but I find I cannot. I must have someone to blame for the destruction of my homeworld. Someone who is responsible for the death of everyone I have ever known, except those on Dantooine. Taris. It was Taris that the Sith destroyed to try to kill you and your precious Bastila. Taris, my homeworld. If it were not for you and Bastila, the Sith would have never had reason to destroy that world. It was your fault for being there, and your fault for rescuing Bastila. Without your intervention, the Sith would have had no cause to lay waste to my child. Just let me vent my anger. I need someone to blame. Something. Anything. I hated that world. Yet everything I learned as a child, I learned there. It is as much I have this ache inside me, where all my childhood memories lay, and I find your fate. There is no emotion. There is peace. I suppose you did what you had to, and it could not have been avoided. The Republic needs you and Bastila, maybe needs you more than it needed Taris. But it is so hard to lose your entire past. You would not understand. Yes, I suppose it will. As long as we remain focused. I am sorry. I will try not to distract you in the future with... Yes. I was... No, it's all right. I think I am over the worst of it. I apologize again for lashing out at you. It was a horrible place to have to live. At least in the lower cities where the non-humans tended to get relegated. Living for years in a place with no sun, living off the trash dropped from the upper levels, and the meager pay. There was always the danger of raccoons coming up from the sewers, or more mundane predators living and working in the area. My family and I struggled each and every day to make something of our lives. But we could only go so far. Taxes from the corrupt government, more fees from the gangs controlling the streets, and whatever was left paying for what food and medical. And of course, there was the constant bigotry and hate from the more affluent and human citizens, lording their will. Every once in a while, a rich human would come down through the lower levels with his droid entourage just to see. But I have come to meet many decent humans in my travels since those days. Indeed, some of the greatest people I have ever met are the Jedi who encouraged me to join the Order. The one who was with the group going to fight the Mandalorians. I am sorry. I am getting away from my point. If they're even... Sometimes, I curse the day my parents fled to Taris. But then again, if they had not, I would not... Another story for another time. For now, we must How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it? Of course.
How can I help? Can I...
Yes, what's it? You get...
Hey there, what can I do for you? Don't tell me you believe Lena's lies. Griff might be working as a miner on Tatooine, but the rest of her story is Bantha Poodoo. You can't trust someone like her. At least Griff's free of her clutches. I'd like to go speak to the Zerka Corp rep on Tatooine if we have time. Maybe I can arrange to see my brother again. I just hope he's not in any kind of trouble when we do. Hey there, what... No, of course not. Not really. But what if it was his idea to leave me behind? I'm not saying Griff would just abandon me, but maybe he did want to leave me behind. Just temporarily, you know? He might have done that if he planned on coming back later, but things don't usually work out for Griff the way he planned, you know? And that's when he'd get in trouble. He was always borrowing money he could never pay back. He might have been trying to skip out on his debts when he left Harris. He would have to leave his little sister behind, so... Yeah, well, no, not exactly. Look, all I'm trying to say is that the more I think back, the more I realize I might be idolizing my brother a bit, not seeing all his faults. I still want to find him. I need to see him again. It's just that I'm not sure how I'll react when I do. Maybe. We'll see. I don't want to judge him yet. Maybe Lena was lying. Or maybe she wasn't. All I know is I'd like to speak to Griff myself. If we have time, I'd like to go talk to the Zerka Corp rep on Tatooine and see what he has to say about... Hey there, what can I do? All I know is I'd like to speak to Griff myself. If we...
Yeah, what do you want? I was one of the best youth warriors in the clan Ordo in my time. No one before me had mastered the power of our basilisk war droids as quickly as I had. Except Mandalore himself, of course. In those days, we were sweeping across the Outer Rim, destroying all who fought us. Young Mandalores would prove themselves in real combat with unknown opponents above 1,000 worlds. Each brought back stories of his achievements. I remember it well, orbiting high above a placid world, its defenses just stirring. As was tradition, I would go ahead of the first wave to find enemies in the thickest fighting. I remember sitting there in my armor, linked directly with a basilisk thrumming beneath me. Every new warrior has to fear to understand how to beat it. You must know that. The doors opened in front of me, and the air was sucked out of the drop bay, scattering crystals of frozen vapor across my path. I can't describe what it feels like to look directly down at a world when the magnetic locks disengaged. The exhilaration, the euphoria I felt as I streaked into the atmosphere, dodging self-guided, an 80-kilometer plunge through the atmosphere, dodging and weaving, the outside of my armor glowing like the sun with the heat of re-entry. And with barely 30 meters to spare, I twisted and skimmed the surface, firing at the giant beam generators that were in my path. The explosion from that sent shock waves that leveled the entire complex around it. It was the I'll never forget those times. But things are different now. We can't go on fighting, but I really don't want to talk about this anymore. I trust Is there something else? Yeah, what do you... You want another war story, huh? You want to hear about... Your stagnant republic has never seen some of the strange creatures. If a world isn't strong enough to defend itself, it's basically forfeit. But this story is about something a little different. We were going through the asteroid fields of the Crispin system at the main belt in the Crispin system consists of mainly small rocks covered in frozen... Ha! I remember using a thermal generator to cause the outer layer of one of the asteroids to vaporize in a picosecond. It blew out and shredded the 3 smugglers using it, but that was a mistake. The asteroid I had targeted was smaller than most, maybe a dozen meters on the side. On the outside, it looked the same as... But something must have been inside it. Something inactive. After I'd hit it, spots of light and heat appeared all over the thin shell, still covering it. What lay underneath looked like some sort of rocky growth. A deformed rock, pitted by scores of... It started rotating faster and faster as we watched it. After a second, it started spraying fire, thermal projectiles that melted our armor like wax. We were caught completely by surprise. Before we could counterattack, it fled at an... We couldn't catch it, but we could follow its hyperspace wake. We followed its trail as far as we could, heading away from the galactic core. When it finally led beyond... Anything that wants to commit suicide in that great... That's the only story I have for now. Is there something... Yeah, what do you want? I don't have as many strange stories like the last one I told you. In one battle above the world of Althir, my unit managed to defeat a force of Althiri 10 times our own size. That battle gained me command of an entire subsect of my... For 5 days, they had managed to hold off our forces, keeping us to the outer rings of their... My task was to assault one of their flanks with a false attack. Once they had surrounded those units, the bulk... Things didn't go as I had planned. I saw an opening, a mistake they had made. While fending off our main force, they had let... I turned my forces and Their slow, ponderous ship could not turn to face us without being overwhelmed. The command vessels were... It was amusing to watch the surviving ships scatter and flee. They were shredded by the... Warriors do not flee from a battle if they are losing. They... Another time, maybe, I'll tell you. Is there some... Your... Yeah, what do you... Water worlds never had much of an appeal for us to conquer. They may... The thing this world is good for is a substance known as KOTOR. But the Mandalore are not as weak and fragile as your Republic and Sith warriors. When we enter a battle, we carry weapons powerful enough to pulverize. Both in our wars and in our own personal combats, there are no survivors. So KOTOR does not hold the appeal it does. You have anything else? Yeah, what do you... Your choice.
Got something on your mind? You got yourself a fast little ship? I'd forgotten what engine sounded like. Or it could be for the free food. What's the gunk that comes out of the synthesizer on this bucket anyway? Do you never clean the darn thing? I'm old, damn it. I'm allowed to be enigmatic when I want to be. And don't you go telling... You know, you remind me of someone else I knew ages ago. Pleasant enough fellow, great destiny, all of that. Breath like a bantha. Oh, very funny. Is it my fault that some people are so easily annoyed? Like impatient little... Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, Andor Vex was his name. The force swirled around him like a hurricane. That's how great his destiny was. No, you wouldn't have. Sometimes swirling force is just swirling force. It gets us old Jedis excited at our age, so we go, ooh, destiny. Well, it turned out that poor Andor believed a wee bit too much in the infallibility of that destiny. That overconfidence turned out to be his downfall. I don't know. Are you overconfident? I hadn't noticed. Even if I had, I would never comment on it. We're talking about Andor, remember? Let's see. Oh yes, Andor's downfall. I was pretty young myself when it happened. At the time, I thought that Andor's destiny couldn't be more... Well, let's just say that I was a strapping young lad with a full head of hair, and Coruscant was a small town with a well. I was just about to abandon Andor to whatever the Force intended for him when his ship was overtaken by a Dimian warship. Now, you've probably never heard of the Dimians, but at the time, they were a nasty lot led by a nastier overlord named Krat. Tall fellow. Krat has us hauled onto the bridge of his ship for questioning, and that's when I knew that Andor's destiny was at hand. Of course he did. Haven't you been listening? It was not in the way you'd probably expect, though. Well, Andor decides that his destiny makes him invulnerable and starts making all sorts of demands. Free me now. I'm not answering questions. Krat decides he's had enough and begins crushing Andor's neck. I told the boy he should have kept his mouth shut. I think he agreed, too. Could have just been gurgling. Finally, Krat has enough of Andor and tosses him aside into this giant energy intake shaft. Andor gets sucked in and starts bouncing around, screaming. Maybe Andor hit something sensitive on the way down, or just didn't agree with the reactor core. Next thing I know, all the ship's alarms are ringing. Everyone panics, and I run, barely making it to the ship in time before the explosion. Krat dies horribly, and the Dimians never quite recovered. Changed the political course of the entire sector for centuries to come. I'd call that quite a destiny, wouldn't you? Well, hey, the chances may not be great, but when one has the opportunity to see something like that twice in a lifetime... Anyway, go on. My throat is dry and you're making... Got something on your... Stop bothering me with your questions. I can barely hear...